Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wisdom Wednesday. Thanks for dropping in and to get some wisdom. Wisdom Wednesday is all about getting some and sharing some because there's nothing we can do. We can't be excellent at what we do. We can't fulfill what we do without wisdom. Isn't that right? We need wisdom. Good morning, everybody. I pray that y'all are having a fantastic Wednesday. No matter what you're facing today, face it with intent and realize that, when you have the right mindset, there are no bad days. Um, there are only days that teach you lessons. There are only days that teach you what not to do anymore, who not to fool with anymore. Okay. Um, there are lessons in those days. So those bad days offer a lot of wisdom. Okay. So let's take that with us today. Thank you for dropping in. What you're watching is episode 2 of the June series called Transform Toxic Leadership. Okay. And this in May, we talked about grace and leadership. And in June, we're talking about toxic leadership. Why? Because the number 6 represents chaos and so many disruption, disorder, disillusion, all kinds of okay? And so that's why it's important that we talk about toxic leadership. Now, you know what I want you to do before we jump into today's episode, and that is engage with me, okay? Let me know that you're here. If you're here, say hello, okay? Also, like this stream, like the video, tag some people. Who do you need to tag? Tag your colleagues, tag your team, tag your supervisors, your boss, whatever you want to call them, those leaders of yours. Tag everybody. Why? Because this is for everyone, okay? Either you are a toxic leader or you know a toxic leader, you serve with a toxic leader, you used to be a toxic leader, you want to make sure that you're not one anymore. There's something for everyone here. And so yesterday, we talked about um, toxic leadership, how we lead others. And today, we're going to take it even a step further. Okay, so I want you all to be with me today. Also, share this line, share it in a group that you're in on Facebook or LinkedIn. Copy the link, okay? Share it in a text message, send it in an email, because I guarantee you by the end of this episode, you're going to be like, people need to see this. People need to watch this. Like, this needs to be talked about. And so, are you with me? That's all I want to know, right? That you're with me and that you're sharing this great information. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I want you to subscribe to the channel. And then I also want you to ring my bell, ring my bell, ring it, ring it. Yes, I want you to do that. I want you to ring my bell so you don't miss any new content that's being dropped. Okay. All right. So, like, tag, share, subscribe. Okay. And then also, comment, okay? If I say something that you like, react, throw up those hearts, those likes. If I say something sad, okay, sad face, however you want to react, go for it. And then I also invite you to be a part of the learning community by dropping in tidbits of information, dropping your wisdom in the comment section, okay? We're all here to share experiences and learn from each other. So I absolutely invite you to do that. Okay, we're already 5 minutes into this thing. So, how about we go ahead and get started with the episode? Here we go. So, again, yesterday in episode number 1, if you missed it, you got to go back and watch it. Yes, it's a long episode, it's about an hour, but you know your girl. I get into this thing, I get so excited. I'm working on my time. I really am. But the first episode really was more like an intro to toxic leadership in general, and then talking about toxic leadership. So that's why the episode was a little bit longer. Well, But I'll try to get to it, okay? Because I know that your time is precious, it's of the essence. We can't make time, we can't earn it, we can only spend it. And so I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me and lead my heart today. Okay, so on the screen here, you see a diagram of what I call leadership because intentional. It is not just how you lead others. We're just now starting to kind of understand that it's two-dimensional at the very least, which there's a relationship between the leader and the follower. You can't have one without the other. And we're going to talk more about that today. But then there's also that third dimension that a lot of people don't seem to recognize, and that is how we lead ourselves. Okay, so leadership, how we lead others, followership, how others lead us, because yes, we do play a role in that. But then also that third dimension, how we lead ourselves. Now, I would be lying to you if I was to tell you that that third dimension is last. It's not. It's not. I typically just begin with the ones we're more familiar with before kind of throwing this personal leadership into it. Even though we are starting to talk about personal leadership a little bit more. Okay. We're going to talk about that one tomorrow. Okay. So you got to join me for episode 3, talking about toxic heartpreneurship. So today, again, talking about followership. So, what is followership? Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, a lot of don't like to hear the word follower. It's a complex. Get over it. You have people who lead, you have people who follow. It's okay. It doesn't make you less than, you're not subpar, you're not second class. No, 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 no. It's not like that at all. Okay. With followership, there has to be a yielding, okay, some submission. But you do it willingly. Okay, you willingly submit, you willingly yield to someone else, and that is your leader. Now, sometimes that leader doesn't come as the person who has the title or that authority. Maybe they just have the influence. That leader, that person that you're yielding to could be a team member. Okay. At some point, it could be a subordinate. Okay, when you're really emotionally mature as a leader and you understand that, gosh, this person knows what they're doing, they have the experience, way more experience than I do. Yes, please take the lead in this. I will continue to provide guidance and support you on what you need. But yeah, you got this. You got this one. Okay. So we have to understand that with followership, there is a yielding, there is a submission that you are giving willingly, not grudgingly. It's not forced on you. It's okay. It's also a covenant. I know y'all don't like this. Y'all, I know this is uncomfortable. You're like, what do you mean a covenant? Yeah, it's a covenant. Like you come into agreement with followership and that leadership. Okay, it's a commitment to that leader. It's a commitment to your team to say that I'm in this with you. You're not alone. Like I'm showing up. I'm showing up with everything I have to show up with. Then that goes to in partnership. Okay? You submitted willingly, you've made the covenant, the commitment to show up, to be there, to be present, to work together. So that then forms this partnership that you have with your leader. Again, we're not talking second class here because your leader can't do anything without you and you can't do anything without your leader. You both have roles to fulfill. And one of those roles as that partner is collaboration and support. Okay. That is so important for us to understand. You're not going to work saying, tell me what to do. You're the one getting paid. That's, this is on you. That's toxic if you're doing that. Instead of showing up and saying, okay, I'm here, let's partner. How can we work together to move this organization forward? What do you need from me? How can I support you in the vision? Okay, what is it that I can do? What problems can I solve? Okay, how can I move the team forward to support you because we have a job to do? One of the language things that we need to fix when it comes to followership is the company won't do this. The organization won't do this. They don't like this. They don't have this. They don't have that. Who's they? Who's the corporation, the organization? I know what you mean. I know you're talking about the chief executives, the ones who call the shots, but you are the organization. In fact, there's more followers than there are leaders by design. But let's stop pretending as though you aren't the organization, you aren't the corporation, you aren't the business, and that you don't have a role in making sure that everything that you want to see happen there happens. It's time out for putting it on other people. Okay, we have to own followership. We have to own it. Yeah, I know. I know. You don't like it. You don't like it. You don't want to hear this because then you have to, your mindset is being open to the fact that there's some things that you have to do in partnership and collaboration and support of your leader because you have a commitment to them. You have submitted to them. You've yielded certain responsibilities and duties to them, but it doesn't mean that you don't have any. Okay. So give me some comments. Let me know. How does this feel? How does this feel? Okay, hearing this. It's true. It's true. All right. Now let's talk about toxic followership. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that leadership is not a mindset, a thought. It's not potential. And the same thing is true with followership. It's not a thought, it's not a mindset. It is in a way, but I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, so bear with me here. It's not thoughts and those people. That's just real. You can't stand them, you can't stand them. Okay. Oh, they get on my nerves. Yes, they get on your nerves. That's real. That's not toxic. What's toxic is when the fact that you can't stand them, you don't like them, makes you treat people that way. Or you, because of those thoughts, you now have decided that I'm gonna do the bare minimum. They're not paying me for all that. They wanna be like that. Fine, let me show them how I can be. See, now that becomes toxic because you're demonstrating a behavior that threatens the organization or your team. Okay. So again, it's not what you think so much as it is what you do. Now, if you're not careful and you don't keep those biases and prejudices in check, the things that we all have, I have them. I have biases. I sure do. I sure do. I have prejudices. Yes, I do. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. We all do. But as leaders, as followers, we have to check those things and say, that's not right. It's one thing for me to kind of think that way because of experiences that I've had, but this is a totally different person. They don't deserve for me to come in with these type of assumptions regarding them. It's not right for me to be acting this way, and it's jeopardizing and really sabotaging myself and the organization. We have to get to that place. Okay. So we're no longer operating in toxic followership. So I love the scripture. This is my life. This is my life. When I'm doing my series, I'm coming from the word of God because that is my power. That's my source of power. And I don't care. I love data. Let me put it this way. I love data. I love research. I love reading academic articles. But I'm here to tell you that everything that works in organizations, in leadership, in change management, in performance enhancement, everything that works comes back to the Word of God. I'm telling you, it does. So that's why I don't have a problem going to the Word of God as a source of leadership and followership and organizational development, because it's there. It's by God's design. And so let's talk about, what does the Bible say about followership? Now, let me warn you, because you're not going to like it. We already have issues with the word followers. So bear with me, okay? If you get mad and offended, so be it. Put it in the comment section. Engage with me. Let me know. But Titus 3:1 says, remind the people, and this is Paul telling Titus to remind the people to be subject to rulers and authorities, meaning to submit, to yield to them willingly. Why? To be obedient and to be ready to do whatever is good. People, remind them. Why did they need a reminder? Why do we remind people of what they should be doing? Because they're not doing it. They're not doing it. This just didn't start last year, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Okay? We're talking about hundreds years ago. Okay? Remind the people, just like I'm reminding you today, to be subject to rulers, to your leaders, your supervisors, those who God has called to cover you, to be obedient. What have they asked of you? What's in your job description? What do the policies and procedures say? Remind the people to do what they've been asked to do, to do what they've been told to do, and to be ready to do whatever is good. So there's some qualifiers here. So let's look at what's not here. God didn't say only the good rulers and good authorities. We're going to talk about that more in a minute, because he's dealing with the follower. Yesterday in scripture, God was dealing with the bad leaders, saying that they were accountable for everything that they did. So I don't care what leaders think they're getting away with, they're not. There are going to be consequences for how they scatter the flock. Okay? How they don't take care of the flock, how they eat the curd, how they use their wool, and so on. Okay? How they slaughter the best choice, the best performers. Okay? The most seasoned workers. There's accountability. God is also saying there's accountability for the follower. Be subject to the rulers, good or bad. He said, yeah, be obedient, do what they say, but be ready to do whatever is good. He didn't say just, whatever, but emphasis on be ready to do whatever is good. And sometimes we have to take a step back and say, gosh, you know what? I don't like this leader, but what they're asking me to do really is good. It really, really is for the benefit of the organization. It's for the benefit of me. It's for the benefit of this really is good. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. It's good. And that's what we have to be ready to do. Then 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 18 says, slaves. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I sure did put this verse in here. Don't be offended. You know why? Because and so are we when we choose to follow someone, when we submit and yield to someone willingly. Okay? We are also indebted. That's why we work. We're trying to earn pay Okay, we owe time for pay. We owe projects for pay. Okay, we owe deliverables for pay. So chill out. Don't turn off the video. Don't close me out. Okay, because I'm referring to this verse. It's important. Because he says, even those who are enslaved unwillingly. Okay? Some of you are at work unwillingly. Some of you don't want to work there. Some of you don't have the choice of where you want to work. You have to kind of work there because maybe you don't have the education you need to have yet. Maybe you don't have the degree you need to have yet. Maybe you don't have the experience you need to have yet to move and have more options available to you. So you feel like you're there unwillingly. But regardless, it says in reverent fear of God, not of that supervisor, not of that boss, not of that leader, not of that CEO, not that director, not in reverent fear of them. He said in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, okay, to those in authority, okay, to those with the title, to those who are leading you, not only to those who are good and considerate, not only to the good ones, not only to the effective ones, because that's how they should be. I'm going to say something y'all don't like, but when you look at scripture, it wasn't slavery necessarily that was the problem. It was how they treated the slaves that was the problem. Because you see in scripture that God has very high expectations for masters, for shepherds, for leaders, for kings, and how they are to treat, love, and care for their subjects. The atrocities that my enslaved ancestors experienced was at another level. That was absolutely not as it should be. People became slaves because of debt, indentured service, for all kinds of reasons. And they still are today in many parts of the world. But the expectation was never that you take away people's identity, that you punish them, that you beat them, that you rape them, that you do despicable things to them. For people who were simply supposed to be indebted to you in service. So we even taking that into context within the organization, okay, we have to understand that mistreatment is never okay. It should never be about the ends that justify the means. No, 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 no. The means matter. The means matter to God. And so here it's saying that even if you don't have a good leader, an effective leader, God still expects us in reverent fear of him to serve and show up for even those who are toxic. I know that's a harsh reality. I know that is. But again, God is speaking to the follower and saying, this is still what I expect of you. That even though your leader may not be doing what they're supposed to do, can you still show up and worship to me and do the right thing? Can you still show respect even when you're being disrespected? Can you still show love and compassion even when people are showing hate towards you? For the time and season that he has called you into their service. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that God wants to keep you there. He didn't want to keep the Israelites there. He would have set them free. But it was for a time and season that they were to be in Egypt. But aren't you glad that just like they had, okay, Moses to deliver them, you too will be delivered. that you won't always be in this situation always, that you won't always be called to serve a toxic leader. Because number one, I'm praying that that leader's heart will change, that they will begin to, their eyes will be open to see their behaviors and how they're harming not only you, but the team and the organization, and that their heart will be renewed. That's my prayer for your leader. But even in this situation, my prayer is that your heart that be guarded, and that you continue to have the strength to rise up and be the follower that God has called you to be. And then the third verse I'm sharing today, Hebrews 13:17 says, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority, because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. Leaders are accountable for how they treat you. In return, give confidence to them. Have it. Don't make them have to earn it. What? I know that wasn't comfortable. I'm sorry. That wasn't comfortable for us. He said, give it. Have confidence in your leaders. Not make them earn it, not wait a little bit, not give time, not give it a year, not give it 2 years, but to have confidence in your leaders and to submit to their authority because of what their duty is. Covering you, serving you, watching over you, supporting you, giving you what you need to do this so that their work will be a joy and not a burden. What? Wait a minute. Wait. So God is wanting us to know that in us being good followers and making our leaders' job easier and better and smooth, that it not being a burden for them, what? That it would be a benefit to us. He said, if you don't make it easy for them, how will you? And letting us know that in us being good followers, we're helping our leaders to excel and to be effective and excellent. And if they're happy doing what they're called to do, it's going to be a blessing to us. So this is the accountability that God has for followers. Even in dealing with toxic feeling. How you feeling? I know it's hard to grasp that. I do. I know it's a challenge, but this will be a blessing to us, y'all, if we grab hold of that. So now let's move into talk about identifying toxic traits in followership. So yesterday in the leadership episode, I talked about the top 5 toxic leadership traits. I want you to put in the comment section, what do you think some of these toxic traits would be as a follower? Okay, maybe you're doing it. Maybe you've experienced it. Maybe you're seeing it from your team members. But what does that look like to you? You can put a couple of in the comment section. I'll give you a minute because I know we have a delay. All right, so here are my top 5 toxic traits of followers, okay? And some of them might surprise you, but the first one is blind obedience. Blind obedience. Now, you're probably saying, but you just said, we should obey. Yes, absolutely, we should. But the blind part is the problem, not the obedient part. Because remember at the beginning of the episode, I was very adamant about telling us the requirement of followership is to walk in partnership, to yield, to collaborate, to support our leaders. When we don't collaborate with them in critical thinking and problem solving and looking at every angle and not asking the the good questions that can maybe help find the loopholes in something. Blind obedience, it really becomes toxic because y'all, you're contributing to an environment that unethical, harmful things can happen, which can erode personal accountability and hinder constructive feedback. And just like we need that as followers, our leaders need that as well. Okay. And when we don't ask the good questions, when we don't look for these loopholes or, as my pastor says, poke holes in things, it not only jeopardizes what we need to do, but there's also, it impedes creativity and innovation. Okay. And so these angles, that's what can happen. So blind obedience, okay, is that it gets to the point where it's like, I'm not asking no questions. Okay, that's what they said. So be it. Even though last time, you know how this went last time. You know that this was a problem last time. I don't think they know that though. We do that. We do that. Well, it's blind obedience because you're not asking the questions and poking holes. Okay. The second one, undermining and backstabbing. Yes, this is where that disrespect comes in. Undermining and backstabbing. People with those negative behaviors, and yesterday we talked about negative attitude being a top toxic trait of leaders, but it's the same for followers. All you do is complain. All you do is undermine, meaning you know what you've been told to do, and you're like, so I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. They can ask anybody else, but I'm not doing it. And you don't even state your concern with it. You just decide you're not going to do it. Or what about the backstabbing? What about, people not being able to trust you? You're the talker. You're talking about confidential information, all of that. Well, you know what you're doing by spreading gossip and rumors and sabotaging not only your leader, but your teammates. They don't trust you. I'm here to tell you, people know. People know what you're doing. People hear, people talk. They understand who you are. They don't trust you. And when people don't trust you, when your leaders don't trust you, when your team doesn't trust you, they don't want you on that project. They don't want you at the forefront. And so this is where we have things like quiet firing happening. Yeah, remember that term that came up last year? Quiet firing is when I'm not telling you necessarily I don't trust you, but I'm just gonna make sure you're not included in this stuff. I'm just gonna make sure that you're not the one teaching. I'm just gonna make sure that you're in the lead on this. I'm just gonna make sure that you're not getting the best clients. Yeah, and in hopes that you'll find your own way out the door. That you'll feel so isolated that you'll start putting in your own applications looking for another job. Okay. Also, it causes division and interpersonal conflict every single time. People don't want to be around you. People won't want to work with you. People won't be open with you because they know as quick as they're talking to you, you're talking to somebody else. They're not going to. Third toxic trait, lack of initiative and responsibility. My God. Yes. Lack of initiative. That is the mark of a leader. And again, it's not the lack of leadership because I'm talking about one dimension of leadership, right? We're talking about three dimensions. So each one of these comes with influence. Each one of these comes with the ability to inspire, the ability to support and nurture, okay? Even as a follower in that position. So one of the other things that leaders do is we take initiative. As a follower, you're expected to take initiative. But if you constantly avoid taking ownership, you don't take responsibility, you just laxed, well, I haven't been told to do that, so I'm not doing it. I'm just doing the bare minimum. This is where mediocrity comes into play. Or this is where, you won't take responsibility for anything you do. Well, I didn't know. It's in the policies and procedures. Well, it's been a long time since I've read them. And there's just always an excuse as to why you're not taking ownership of your task, responsibilities, you're not growing professionally, because that is your responsibility as well. How can I put this? Yes, you want feedback, and we're going to talk about that in a second from your leaders and your teammates about the areas of growth, the things that you need to work on. But you know what you need to work on too. No, no, no. People don't have to tell you everything. Come on, let's be honest. You know what your weaknesses are. Are you working on them? Are you signing up for that class? Are you doing research? Are you watching videos to try to learn a better way or to improve your skills? Are you taking that initiative? Are you taking responsibility for your own growth and development? When you don't do that, it creates a culture of dependency and complacency in the team, on the team, and in the whole organization. It really does. The fourth toxic trait, y'all, I could come up with was resisting change, y'all. Oh my gosh. Resisting change is a biggie. Most of the businesses that we love, the restaurants that we love that closed, that didn't survive the pandemic, why? Why didn't they survive the pandemic? Because of resisting change. That, y'all, it comes down to that. They resisted change. They didn't want to try something new. They didn't want to, deliver. They didn't want to do curbside. They didn't want to see different ways of how they could use a product. They didn't want to. They resisted change. And by resisting change, their business went away. And we saw the ones who did do well with change, who were welcome change and open to it, how they thrived. And not only did they thrive, but they introduced new services to the culture that are here to stay. Are here to stay. When we resist change, y'all, and you cling to outdated practices and you say, look, it's always been done this way, you discourage creativity and innovation. And that is always going to impede progress. It's also going to stop the organization from being able to adapt, okay, and be vigilant and resistant to the changes in the culture and the environment. And you're going to hinder your progress and growth, not just of yourself, but of people around you. Oh, and then the fifth one, passive aggressiveness. And really, passive aggressiveness happens in all of these, as I've kind of mentioned. It's the knowing what you ought to do, but you're choosing not to do it, but you're not really talking about it. See, one thing about me is that if I have a concern or if I am not going to do something, I openly communicate that to my leaders, what I'm not going to do and why. We have a discussion. Many people just say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going. They're going to be looking for me. That's passive aggressive. That's passive aggressive. Now, when you take my approach, the consequence of that is being seen as aggressive because you are addressing things directly. You are stating your concerns in a very respectful and tactful way, but still being direct can sometimes be taken as aggressive, even when you're not being aggressive or having the intent to undermine or be disrespectful. So be aware of that. But when you're passive aggressive and you're expressing your dissatisfaction, grievances, or disagreements through the subtlety of inaction, if you will, or talking around issues and not addressing them directly, that's a problem. Okay, very toxic work environment. So again, not all of them, just the top 5, y'all, just top 5. Okay. And here's some consequences. Not all of them, but here are 10 for us to really think about the consequences of these of toxic followership. Erosion of trust, negative team dynamics, reduced productivity, deterioration of morale, impaired decision making. Yeah, really is. Why? Because our leaders need our questions, they need our feedback, they need our experiences. And when you withhold that, impaired decision making, hindered innovation and creativity, increased turnover. Yeah, you know, because either you're leaving because of low emotional intelligence, because you're always getting offended, or people around you are because they just no longer want to work with you and deal with you. Damaged reputation, decreased employee well-being, and limited growth and development. Okay, so yeah, a lot there. So this is why we have to stop toxic followership in its tracks. Now, if you're seeing these kinds of behaviors as a follower, guess what? It's because of what you're doing. I've used this quote for leaders, and now I'm telling you as followers that if your team can predict your behavior accurately, if your leader can predict your behavior accurately, it's simply because you've provided them with accurate data. Uh-huh. Yeah. You've provided them with accurate data. That's science. Researchers understand this. Every line of data is called an observation. And for if you haven't done research, if you've never taken a stats class, you may not know that or realize that. But every entry of data, even if it's quantitative, numbers, it's still an observation. It's still an experience that someone has had. Yes. And so you've provided them with the accurate data, the observations, the experiences, the encounters with you, if they can accurately predict what you're going to do. I knew what you were going to say. I knew you were going to turn this project in late. I knew you weren't going to want to help. I knew the team members were going to be complaining about you. I knew you were going to go share that confidential information. I knew you were going to be late. How did they know? So if you're hearing these things, it's on you to change it because all they're doing is being great scientists. All your team and leaders are doing are taking the data that they have and making good predictions and then making decisions based on their like good scientists do. You want different results, change the data. Okay? If you want from you for you, then you have to give them something different. You have to give them a different encounter. You do have to turn your projects in on time. You do have to ask the important questions. You do have to show up. You do have to be a team player. You do, you do, you do. Okay? It's back. Don't blame people for being good scientists. But let's be mindful of this as well. I don't want you to leave here thinking that, everything that we don't like that happens that followers do is toxic. Because, we're quick to do that. Oh, that's toxic. That's toxic. That's toxic. And the church is like we're saying everything is that's demonic. That's demonic. That's demonic. Well, no, everything's not demonic. Some things you just did yourself. Okay, that's just bad decision making. So when it comes to toxic followership, okay, let me tell you what it isn't. It isn't constructive challenge, leaders and team members. If a person constructively challenges something respectfully with the right tone, using the right words, because we know that's important. That's important. Okay. Your delivery, it may not be what you're doing, but maybe your delivery is toxic. Maybe your word choice is toxic. Maybe your mannerisms and how you sitting and looking at people is toxic. But simply constructively challenging something and asking questions, that's not toxic. Being an independent thinker, that's not toxic. Okay. In fact, the reason that you hired people for their experiences and knowledge and things that they've been able to produce is because of their independent thinking, new perspectives. Okay. That's where diversity comes in. Initiative and proactivity, people taking the initiative to step up. Hey, I know you were talking about this during the meeting, so I actually went ahead and did some research to present to you about this. That's not people overstepping. That's them taking initiative. Don't come down on people because they're showing initiative and being proactive. Because if you're always coming after that, guess what? They're going to stop doing it. Providing feedback is not toxic. Saying, I really enjoyed the event. This is great. I think next time, maybe this would even be more impactful. Maybe if we did it this way or consider this option, right? We could have greater impact. That's not being toxic. Holding leaders accountable. Someone calling out unethical behavior or saying, hey, what you said was really offensive, I believe, to many people. Some people came to me, some people said things to me. Just please, if you don't mind, please be mindful of that in the future. Using these words or let's try to be a little bit more sensitive to these types of situations. That's accountability. That's not toxic. Again, tone, being respectful, the timing, all of that. Balancing support with critical thinking, that's not being toxic. The key word there is balance. Continuous learning, that's not being toxic because someone went and got a doctorate before you did, even though they're your subordinate. That's not toxic. Why are you offended? Because people are trying to improve themselves. They're not coming for your job. God might be preparing them for somewhere else. How is that toxic? How is that offending you? Don't be offended. That's not toxic that someone is going to get certifications. It's not toxic that someone's going to conferences and wanting to improve themselves because of what you're not providing them and offering them in an organization. Now, is there a way to do it? Is there proper notification? Just want to give you the heads up that I will be attending, that I will be going to. Yes, that's a great way to do it. Sometimes it's not about asking permission necessarily, but of course, giving proper notice and awareness to something. Yes, that's the right way to do it. But it's not toxic. Taking ownership. I did this. That's not being toxic. Because if they did something wrong, you would want them to say, I did it. But when it comes to them doing something right and great, you don't want them to say, I did it. Come on, that's not being toxic. In fact, you should encourage that. And if you don't have enough things to say that you take ownership of, well, that's probably an issue that you need to deal with as a leader, as a teammate. But it's not being toxic. It's not being toxic, someone being trustworthy and reliable. And sometimes being trustworthy and reliable is being accountable vocally. Sometimes being trustworthy and reliable is saying, hey, you need to know what someone said to me. That's not gossip, but it's letting them know, I'm just giving you the heads up that there could be some trouble coming from this. Don't consider people giving you heads up and letting you know that this is what's being said as being toxic. We know we should have the emotional intelligence to know the difference. Okay. All right. So now how do we get from toxic to transformational in followership? And it's the same as in leadership. Acknowledging, understanding, and changing. And being aware of the harmful effects Okay, time to reflect on how your behavior is affecting the team. How is it affecting motivation, trust, and engagement? Understanding why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, y'all, we have to get to the point where we're saying, why am I continuing to avoid the situation? What is it about me that I don't want to just be direct about this and have that conversation? Why do I keep gossiping? Gee, why is it hard for me to keep confidential information under wraps? Why do I have this burning desire to let people know what I know, even when I know it's at it can hinder or hurt people? Why do I do that? Where does that come from? When you strive to understand your behavior, y'all, that's the first way into changing it. But we have to pray about these things. We have to talk about these things. We have to reflect on them and get to the root of why we do the things that we do. And then we can establish a plan, initiate that plan for changing those behaviors. And that's where coaching comes in. The great thing with executive coaching is that we also do leadership development with Lead My Heart, because we do three-dimensional leadership development. We cover leadership, followership, entrepreneurship. So you don't have to go to different places to get that. And we combine the best of life coaching. Okay, dealing not with just work, but your life, and how what's happening in your life is either helping or hindering your progress as a leader. Okay, so if you're interested in executive coaching to help deal with the matters of the heart regarding leadership, because that's what we're good at, then reach out to us for our free partnership call. Okay, 15 minutes, and we can talk about how we can help you do that. Okay. Um, I would love to help you. I would love to, love to, love to. Okay. Because it's not only hurting your organization, that this is hurting you, your career, and your progress as well. So, another thing we must do is seek constructive feedback, and that comes through self awareness and external perspectives. Okay. So, here are 5 questions that, ooh, if you just get the courage to ask, could change your whole trajectory with regards to followership. Um, I kid you not. Okay, here, just try one. Just try one. Here's number 1. Do you feel that I actively contribute to a positive and inclusive team culture? Do you feel that way? Now, these are not all open ended. So I at least want to stop here and coach you and say, even with open ended, be prepared to ask how or why. Do you feel that I actively contribute? Yes, I do. Why do you feel that way? What in what ways do you feel that I contribute? Or if they say no, why is that? Okay, so be ready for the follow up. Don't let people get away with yes or no. Number 2, how would you rate my level of accountability and reliability in fulfilling commitments? Ooh. How would you rate? Okay. Y'all, that's huge. And again, guard your heart, because the responses, and I can talk to you later and share information on social media about what to do with feedback. Now that you've got it, now what do you do with it? Depending on who it's coming from. But we're not going to get all into that for sake of time. But I do want you to think about like what they say. How would you rate my level of accountability and reliability? Number 3, are there any specific areas where I can enhance my leadership and followership qualities? Okay. Number 4, how would you describe my level of active listening and empathy towards others? Ooh, are you an active listener? Empathy. Do you care how other people feel? And do you demonstrate that? And number 5, do you consider me a trusted member of the team? Are you ready? Are you ready for the truth? I pray that all of this would be positive for you, but we have to be open to the fact that, maybe some people do, maybe some people don't. What do you do with that? Okay, but these are 5 powerful questions, y'all, to really get you the feedback that you need to know where you stand as a follower. Okay, so building transformational followership, we're getting to the end there, so hang in with me. But we're talking about the importance of the empathy and emotional intelligence first. Okay, you got to have that in building transformational. I'm sorry, that should be followership instead of leadership for this discussion. Um, but work on developing empathy. How many times have I asked followers when they are talking to me with, issues about their leader? I can't believe they did that. I don't know why they're wanting this, and that. And I simply ask the question, if your leader, what would you want from you and how would you get it? Y'all, I get these looks. Well, I hadn't thought about that. Mm, yeah, empathy. Can you kind of imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes just for a minute? Just for a second. I don't want you to live there, but just for a second. If you just take in their role, their responsibilities, all the priorities that they have, what they're lacking, have you considered their point of view? And then ask yourself, how would you handle this? Now it might be different. It might be different. And maybe that warrants a conversation with that leader as to how you would like things to be different. Okay? Or what would better work for you as a leader in collaboration with them? So when I had my team, with my team, one of the things I asked was, do I communicate with you effectively enough for you to do what you need to do? And I asked each of them, yes, I do feel that you're giving me what I need. I said, okay, great. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that. But then the second person said, well, kind of, sort of. I liked how you gave me a list of what I needed to do because I'm starting to feel overwhelmed lately. And by having the list of tasks, it helps keep me, you know, on task and abreast of what I need to do. They didn't say abreast, that's more me, but you get what I'm saying. Um, and I appreciated that for 2 reasons. One, because when I sent the list, I felt some kind of way. That's not necessarily my leadership style. But at the same time, because of the kind of week that was so busy, I felt like a list helped me in communicating with them. And so for her to say, wow, that helped me, I like that. I was like, okay, that gave me some validation that I'm not overstepping or seeming too authoritative. Okay. Um, but also, I appreciated the fact that she said, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it kind of opened up the discussion about other things that I needed to know. Okay. And how to work together to manage that between the two of us. That's important. Okay. And then I went back to the first person and I said, can you give me feedback on the list? Did you like the list? Does that work for you as well? And she said, yes, it does. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're going to be using lists now. All right. I appreciated that. But it started from that point of asking questions and empathy and okay. And emotional intelligence is important where you create that culture, that atmosphere of people being able to tell you what it is they need to tell you without fear of, You get offended. You might feel that way. Let me say that. You might be offended. You might be saying, how dare they? But the fact that you don't say, how dare you? And you kind of think about it in your head and you say, I appreciate you telling me that. Okay. I'd rather not respond to it right now. Let me think about what you said and maybe we can have a conversation more, at a later time, but soon. Okay. But let me think about what you said. Why don't we do that more often? You don't have to respond in the moment. You don't have to respond at a time where you're so upset, you're so offended, you're so ready to clap back. No. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Let me think about what you said. And let's table this conversation right now, but we're gonna finish it. Okay. But I just want to make sure that I've considered your perspective fully before giving a response. I want to make sure I know all the facts. I want to make sure, okay, I need to, look into some things. Come back to it. But also support and collaborate. Okay? Actively support and collaborate. Y'all are a partnership. You're doing it together. It's not just your lead, have certain duties and responsibilities and greater accountability. Okay? But you have certain duties and responsibilities and accountability too. You're not subpar. You're not second class. You're equals, which is different roles. It's like a marriage. Okay, I'm gonna say it. It's like I've been using a lot of words like submission and yielding and covenant and commitment and partnership. Yeah, that's what it is. It's for a different purpose, but that's what it is. And it takes a lot of work. Just like marriages take work, great partnerships and followership and leadership, that takes a lot of work too. Okay. So that's how we build that transformational followership. So here are I thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I just want to leave you all with this. And if you didn't catch all of it, please, take a moment to go back and rewatch it. It will stay on the lives on my social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. But here are the key episode. Number one, followership is a commitment, a partnership with your leader and team. It is a partnership. Number two, followership is a demonstration. It's not your thoughts, because we all have crazy toxic thoughts sometimes. Now, if those toxic thoughts begin to be demonstrated in how you act and how you speak openly and interact with people, you got a problem. And that's why we see the types of violence and stuff in the workplace, because those toxic thoughts now become what you want to do and what you want to say, and you want to act on them. It's a demonstration. That's why it's toxic. Okay. So I'm not on here to shame people for their thoughts and ideas. And I don't want to do this. I really don't want to. Well, a lot of things we don't want to do. Okay. It's not that. It's your demonstration of it. Number three, God has firm expectations for followers too. He does. Leaders, yes, God is holding them accountable, but he's also holding followers accountable too. Number four, toxic leadership is not doing the things you simply don't like. Okay? There are going to be a lot of things your followers do that you just don't like, but that does not mean it's toxic or demonic. Okay? Number five, these are not just the top five in general. These are my top five toxic followership traits. Sorry, that should say followership as well. This is what I get for doing this at 1 a.m. But blind obedience, undermining and backstabbing, lack of initiative, resisting change, and passive aggressiveness. Okay. Number six, erosion of trust and damaging reputation. not just of the organization, the team, but of you as well, are just two of the many consequences of toxic followership. And then we have to understand that acknowledging, understanding, and changing, acknowledging, understanding, and changing, awareness, okay, seeking the root of the problem, and then establishing a plan for the other keys to transformation. Number 8, seek constructive feedback from your leader and team members. Important. And then lastly, empathy and emotional intelligence and support and collaboration are crucial. Okay. And I dare would say, don't even attempt to collaborate and support without empathy and emotional intelligence, and vice versa. Okay. So, y'all, that's it for today's episode. Join me tomorrow for episode number 3 and the last episode of the series, Transform Toxic Leadership, where we're talking about heartpreneurship. Okay, we're going to talk about leading yourself and understanding how to just get rid of those erratic, toxic, horrible behaviors that are jeopardizing your professional success. Okay, we're going to talk about it. So join me again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Okay. So that's it. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Dr. Wanita Mercer. And if you want to reach out to me to schedule a free partnership call, you can do that very easily by going to leadmyheart.com/book and choose free partnership call to schedule your free 15 minutes with me to discuss your concerns, your issues, your challenges, and then allowing me to tell you how Lead My Heart can help. Y'all, that's it. I love you all. I pray that you have a fantastic Wisdom Wednesday. And remember, in everything you do and with everything you have, love God and love people. Goodbye.